tactical moves in the group in the front. Nico Denz going. Michael Matthews has just dropped off the back, and this is Quentin Pacher who's with Nico Denz. Matthews, always a fighter, but he's struggling here. It's not the first day he's been out there fighting. He's given everything on almost every day. If he's not been in the break, he's been trying to win the sprint.
And maybe we weren't completely out of out of sorts with the fact that it's a bit of a test for intermediate sprints in the Tour de France.
We're hearing that the Swiss national team has just lost its first rider. Claudio Imhoff has abandoned the Tour de Suisse. And we've got riders fighting it out at the front now for the stage win. Just 2 kilometres into this 17.7k climb. Nico Denz, jersey open here in the black. And a man as well who's trying to get as much of the air in. The cooling system in full go. Quentin Pacher just behind him. In the chase we had Pasqualon. He just pulled out though, and Masnada is making his move. And just on the wheel of Masnada you have Quinn Simmons, who's the king of the mountains at the moment and climbing, well, the best we've ever seen him climb in his short career so far. Thalmann, the latest to be distanced off the back, and he's with Nelson Oliveira of Portugal and Movistar. So the cohesion not lasting long at all on this climb.
No, I think if they want to try and win the stage today, I think it's a question of climbing at your speed and settling into that rhythm I was talking about, as early as possible, and then you just keep plugging away at it, because if the peloton decides that we're going to go racing early on the slopes on this, then 5.5 minutes I think is very much bridgeable. So I think they want to be a little bit aware of that, and Masnada here now just switching the screens on his bike computer, making sure that he's got the power and the heart rate and everything clearly visible on that screen, so he knows how hard to go.
He's got a bit of a head start here on paper, his biggest rival, Clément Champoussin, who's in the little group behind. Still trying to make his way across Champoussin, and Masnada's looking. That's possibly the reason why he's working the hardest in this group at the minute, just to try and distance Champoussin. Nelson Oliveira not on his best day. So the quartet at the front, Masnada with Simmons, Denz and Pacher. And extending a decent lead now. Champoussin in this group that's being led by Pasqualon. And then we have Oliveira and Thalmann. Michael Matthews was the first to be dropped. So they classified it before the entry to the pass. Here's the official entry to the pass. It's actually closed still. Red sign on it, but thankfully open for us. And there's the maximum gradient of 9.9%. Paschal distance now, just 3 at the front. Masnada still putting the hurt on here. Let's hear from Jakob Fuglsang in the group behind.
Well, Jakob, can you tell us how was it this morning receiving this yellow jersey last minute? How was it for you? How you took it?
Yeah, of course it's a little more stressful and a change of plans when you get it so shortly before the start. But that's how it is, and we have to adapt, and we will do our best to do that.
What's your view on the situation currently? It's crazy. All these teams out, the leader out, Vlasov. What do you think of it? How it is mentally to process all of that?
Yeah, it's crazy, but the race goes on, and yeah, not much to do. We race, and that's how it is.
And yesterday you had a really good ride. Confident for the GC that you got back the lead now?
Yeah, I don't see why I should not be confident for the GC. I've been feeling good and I prepared good for Tour de Suisse, and it's been an objective for me from the beginning. So I hope to do good, and yeah, we see.
Well, some straight-talking stuff there, as usual, from Jakob Fuglsang. Doesn't see why he shouldn't be confident. He's certainly walked the walk so far, as well as talking the talk.
Yeah, he has, hasn't he? He's looked really good all week.
Is Brent van Moer from the breakaway dropped. Very, very quickly finding out who are the strongest riders here. In the meantime, we've had a change. Hadn't seen the peloton for a while, but Omar Fraile has returned, has come to the front, and Ineos Grenadiers has started to work. Tim de Klerk is still there, and he's moving up as well, maybe trying to do something to set up Remco Evenepoel.
Well, at least keep him protected for the time being.
This is Nelson Oliveira. Was focusing on him, even though he's been dropped for a while now. Let's go. 14 Ks to the finish. You're looking at the front of the race now. Quinn Simmons, the king of the mountains. Faster Masnada of Quick-Step Alpha Vinyl. And Nico Denz of Team DSM. Denz with just 2 wins in his career. Nothing at World Tour. Came very close at the Giro d'Italia, didn't he, a few years ago, when he was out there with Matej Mohoric. A wonderful escape in the wind and rain into Gualdo Tarino. Masnada himself with 6 wins to his career, that Giro stage being the height of it for him in 2019. And Quinn Simmons, twice victorious in Belgium at the Tour de Wallonie. Again, no World Tour victory for him. In a week of firsts and comebacks. What's it going to be today? That was Van Moer again. Talman continuing to fight. Continue to work hard, even though he was one of the first to be dropped. He's sort of passing other riders who've been dropped in front of him. Now here goes Masnada, time to attack. Obviously very, very wary of these two, particularly Simmons, I would imagine, given the way he's been climbing.
Yeah, I think he is somewhat wary of them, but, you know, as long as he keeps on setting a strong pace, I think he doesn't have to do these attacks. And he almost cracked Quinn Simmons there.
There was a moment, wasn't there?
Yeah, 5 more pedal
just
strokes.
Carried on through. And Omar Fraile starts to work for Ineos Grenadiers, and, well, you can imagine Geraint Thomas, although Danny Martinez has now moved up. He's at, what, 16th, 15th place now. Surely has to be for Geraint Thomas today, who's looking very good. 2nd overall in the general classification. He's at 6 seconds from the lead. It's currently occupied by Jakob Fuglsang.
Yeah, and with Martinez being almost 2 minutes down on JC, I can't see him being an option for them to ride for today.
Now, what's going to happen here? Let's have a look. It's still Fraile riding, but the pace doesn't look infernal at the moment. They're not exactly strung out down there, Magnus.
No, and this was something that we were questioning as well, is you know, because there are such reduced numbers from pretty much all of the teams, how hard can you ride from the bottom, really, to make sure that you got enough manpower to cover the whole climb? You know, climbs like this, we see basically the whole team has to be present and do their kilometers to set up the the team leader in the best possible way. But I think here now it's like, okay, we still have to do this. It just means that we're going to have to slow it down somewhat to cover for the loss of manpower.
Last stage race in the Spanish national champions jersey for Omar Fraile, unless he manages to win it again. Rider from the Basque Country, who won that jersey down in Alicante last year. .5 Ks from the top. Of course, our Swiss television cameras are naturally following the Swiss rider who's been dropped here. He's not one of the riders who's making the race really at the front. This is Andrea Pasqualon, also dropped, racing for Undermarché. Imagine he's, I think, at least 30 seconds off the lead at the minute. There's a group further ahead of these two. A group that contains Champoussin, Herrada and Pacher. And then the leaders, Dens, Masnada, Simmons. Back in the bunch, yellow jerseys, Jakob Fuglsang. If you're tuning in late to the Tour de Suisse today, a reminder, there are 4 entire teams missing from this race. 3 did not start today. A long shadow cast over this race by COVID-19. Bahrain victorious, UAE Emirates and Alpecin Phoenix did not begin en masse. The leader, Alexander Vlasov, who took the yellow jersey last night, also out for Bora Hansgrohe. 29 riders not starting today, the biggest total since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic on any day of any race. Stevie Williams out, leader for 4 days. Rigoberto Urán couldn't start today, neither could Tom Pidcock.
I was just having a little look there at Remco Evenepoel, and he looked completely different so far. I should probably add on the climb to what he looked like yesterday. He's still looking very composed, you know, no facial expressions. He's not looking like he's even, you know, sweating overly. He looks a completely different rider.
Now Simmons is at the front trying to put the pressure on Masnada and company. That company being Nico Dens, who's taken another shower here. Try to stay as cool as possible.
Not easy on these roads on the mountainside to stay cool.
Well, you mentioned Remco Evenepoel there. His teammate is up the road, of course. Masnada, not one for quite a while. Very start of the season at the Tour of Oman. Had to pull out rather late from the Giro d'Italia. Suffering with quite a bit of illness at the end of April.
Tolman is doing a great ride here. It seems like he's found his rhythm. He sort of didn't respond to any of the attacks early on, but he's slowly but surely just picking off rider after rider who's getting dropped, and he's doing his own thing.
Yeah, Roland Tolman racing for the Swiss national team. 28 years of age. He actually rides for Team Vorarlberg in the 3rd division. He's been given an opportunity here. Had a good tour of the Alps, actually, a few years ago, finished in the top 10. No stranger to good climbing performances. Still 5.5 minutes from this trio back to the peloton. It's looking good for Masnada and company.
It very much is. I think the peloton would have needed to shave off another 1.5 minutes or so to be in contention for the stage win, but clearly that isn't really in the minds of the GC favourites. They're just doing their own battle today. They know they're safe. They're not going to sort of hand over the jersey to one of these guys up here.
A reminder that Fausto Masnada is the best placed in the general classification at 9 minutes and 4. And among the trio here, nobody else within half an hour. Michael Matthews, that other semi-threat, if you like, he was at 9 minutes and 31 and he's already been dropped. Here's Tolman again, and he's now got Pacher in his sights a little further ahead. Still Pasqualon trying to hang on as much as possible. Reminder that this gradient on this climb is fairly steady for a long climb. There aren't too many huge changes. Goes as low as around 6.5%, as high as the high 9s. It's the length and consistent difficulty that is the real threat here, as well as the altitude, up to 2,000 meters. This is interesting. Champoussin is working his way back now, and he's with José Herrada. This looks like a pretty good ride from the Frenchman. Herrada, the Spaniard, experienced, trying to hang on. And that last shot we saw, the first time in a while we've seen the gap, and it's not perhaps as big as you might think.
No, they seem to be holding that gap pretty steady in my view.
There we go. They're only just
actually,
around the hairpin.
Yeah. Maybe those three riders are starting to look a bit at each other as well.
We already had the battle where Masnada tried to drop them all. Simmons had a little go, didn't he? I think Denz has just been hanging on and hanging on. This is a colossally long climb. Thalmann still creeping up the mountain a little faster than those who he's with. And let's not forget here that Pasqualon is a sprinter. He's doing a decent ride as well. Now then, Masnada once more, and this could be it for Simmons. He's struggling to hang on. Masnada, knowing they were approaching from behind, putting in another dig, and Quinn Simmons is really going to have to try his best to deal with the emergency now. Denz is reacting brilliantly well.
Yeah, he's looking good. But for Simmons now, maybe take it a short breather and then try and get into to the wheels of Champoussin behind. Just try and stay with that group and salvage something out of the stage.
Buster Masnada, though, has put some daylight between him and the man who's anchoring his wheel at the moment, and Quinn Simmons. Here goes Fausto Masnada. Denz has been a really talented rider since the youth categories. He was one of those guys who was highly talked about. Ajay Dessert and their development team helped him along his way before he finally left the French team. Still awaiting that big first World Tour win. It'd be quite something if he could take it on a mountain stage.
Yeah, it would be. And I think Masnada do well to get rid of Denz before they get to point of sprinting a little bit as well, because Denz is not slow.
He's one of those fastish rouleurs, good sort of... You've always thought he's had a good potential to be a good guy in the classics. Has never really exploded in that sense, but...
There's still time.
Roland Thalmann still looking up ahead to Quentin Pacher. Well, all the action going on at the front of the race. It looks as though behind, the gap really not changing. 5:32. Haven't had an image of the peloton for a while, but can't imagine that too much is happening if we aren't seeing it. It's as we were. Dylan van Baarle for the Ineos Grenadiers. Just behind him, Dani Martinez. Oh, the group's got a little smaller. Ten kilometres remain. Let's have a look back at the gap. Is that Simmons that's been passed by the other two? In fact, no, I think Simmons... No, yes, Simmons has been passed by the two chasers, so I think Quinn Simmons in a bit of a crisis there. This is Herrada, who's still on the wheel of Champoussin. Riding okay together, these two.
We're just coming into probably two of the more difficult kilometers of this climb here, with ramps of 9.5 and, you know, the very, very steep sections.
Simmons already the king of the mountains, poised to take that prize. And the car's going and being allowed to go past him. That will be a moral blow. Great to see the only two riders remaining in the race for EF Education Easy Post turning up and giving it their best, because Jonas Rutsch is there trying his best to look after Nielsen Paulus. Only two started and two remain in that select group. Well played. This is the front. Still Masnada. And hanging on there, Nico Dens. Back with Pacher. At the moment, the sixth rider on the road. A reminder that the peloton are almost 5.5 minutes in arrears here. There's still more than 10 Ks to go for this lot. The yellow jersey is on the back today of Jakob Fuglsang, the Dane. Upon the podium last year in the Tour de Suisse. World Tour stage racing, it's the Dauphiné that's been his race, two-time winner of that. Narrow roads up here as well. Torres with a great ride to still be in here. Fastish track rider at the back.
Very good.
Keegan Swerble as well, he's there for Human Powered Health. Mathieu Bourgodeau is there. And number 95, Matteo Badilati. He's the man on the right-hand side as we look at it. Michael Scher remains as well for Asger Dessert, the former Swiss champion in the breakaway early doors. First stage, I think it was. Now then, we've got to move. Bruised, battered, but wanted to take something home. Alexei Lutsenko tries to go away to take glory. And we're seeing perhaps why Astana, Kazakhstan wanted to keep the breakaway in check earlier on, Magnus.
Yeah, I guess this was the reason. Like I said, I didn't think they would get on the front and ride unless there was a, you know, they had something up their sleeve and they wanted to do something. But I am somewhat surprised that they didn't carry on with it, because ultimately now 9 kilometers and bringing back 5 minutes and 40 seconds on Masnada, I think that's a tall order for him. They would have needed to be within a couple of minutes at the foot of the climb to for him to be able to do that. I mean, it is still possible, but I think Masnada would have to slow down dramatically, and Lutsenko have a super special day.
If you're watching and wondering why there is no reaction from the GC favourites, certainly to a rider with as big a name as Alexei Lutsenko, that's because he's lost 10 minutes and 49 seconds already during this race. He's a man who had a very nasty crash a few days ago, and he's been sort of the riding wounded since. The minute he's getting metre by metre, but he's not exactly powering away from the bunch.
No, he's not. Looks like Israel Premier Tech are getting to the front here again. Taking over from Ineos Grenadiers.
Interesting move in itself. Perhaps not happy with the pace.
Yeah, maybe not, but I guess Ineos would argue that, look, you got the yellow jersey, you do some work as well, you ride. We don't want to set the pace the whole climb, and especially with the reduced number of riders that they have in this group, you know, it would be a tall order to carry this on, and I think an awful lot of weight is going to land on Martinez's shoulders to look after Geraint here now.
Well, this is what it looks like at the back of the bunch. And there remains a big nasty slope in front of them. It continues like that the whole way. They've just gone through the 10 kilometres to go, Barra has the peloton. Breakaway in the meantime. The front of the race is just over 8 kilometres from the finish now. 1.5 Ks between the front and then this group. And this is the front again now. Masnada looking around, maybe trying to entice Dens through.
I'm sure Dens has been sat on now for a good few kilometres, hasn't given him a single turn, but I'm sure that Dens is also somewhat worried about if he lets Masnada in behind him, he's likely to get hit by another attack, and you know he doesn't want to do that.
They come into Turbel. Just over halfway up. 8 kilometres to go, and it's Nico Dens from Germany representing the team in the black jersey. DSM already have a stage win this week. Fausto Masnada is the Italian rider here. He's in the blue, white and black for the Belgian team, Quick Step Alpha Vinyl. A team who just do not stop winning. Masnada himself with one victory this season that came in Muscat, the Omani capital. It's been good to see him back in form after a prolonged break with illness. He was told to take a complete break off the bike. Missed the Giro d'Italia. He's looking good now. 28-year-old from Bergamo, already a Giro d'Italia stage winner. Up ahead, the man who was born in the same year, 1994. Dens' successes have come in Slovakia and in the Vendée region of France. Well, no race horses today. We're uphill. I'm not seeing any mountain goats either yet, either on the bike or off it. They're keeping their powder dry. This is Chris Nailons who's at the front. Yellow jersey, third wheel. Ugo Uhl just behind Nailons. And you've got Martinez looking after Thomas. And Jonas Rutsch doing a great ride here.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant job. Really stepping up here to help his teammate out.
One of those riders who you expect to be good in the classics. I'm talking about the Flemish classics as well. Cobbled races. There he is wearing 86, but he's showing that he has ability. As Remco Evenepoel looks to be on his own. Leknersund alongside him. Pozzo Vivo remains. There's Felix Großschartner, Sergio Higuita. And Max Schachmann further up. They're the three Bora riders still involved in the general classification. Larry Warbast remains in the group as well. A good look at Andreas Kron. Oscar Rodriguez dropped. Alongside stage winner from Paris, Mathieu Bourgodeau. Just fighting to see if he can get back on. Masnada and Dens, 7 kilometers from the conclusion of the race. Great little climb this, lots of narrow roads and hairpins, beautiful scenery.
Stunning.
What does it mean for the racing though? It's amazing how the gap is almost unmoved, 5.5 minutes.
Well, Masnada is setting a very, very good pace up here, actually. He's still looking full of energy, full of fight. I guess he has to keep this pressure on as well to see whether he can fatigue Dens to basically just drop off his wheel, or I guess in a couple of kilometers he's got to have to start thinking about attacking and seeing whether he can drop him that way. But for the time being, just keep plugging away the way he is.
We're hearing about 30 seconds back to Champoussin and Rada here. Champoussin, very much like Masnada in the front, has done most of the riding between these two. José Rada, of course, it's fair to say the less talented of the Rada brothers, but he's been a hard worker and a seasoned pro, now at 36 years of age. Hasn't won any big races on the World Tour, whereas his brother's been national champion on a couple of occasions and done the business up in Grand Tours. José Rada came famously close in the Vuelta a España, remember, a few years ago, on the McLovin day. Ángel Madrazo getting the better of him. It's down in the southeast of Spain. Masnada still going here. Just showing him what a solid signing he's been for Quick-Step Alpha Vinyl. Great addition if we do get this Remco Evenepoel Grand Tour assault at any time. You'd imagine that he'd be an integral part of that team. Dylan van Wilder maybe as well.
Yeah. Well, even for the week-long stage races of any sort of real climbing stage races, I think they're both of those riders for the future are got to be vital.
Nelson Oliveira, former Portuguese time trial champion, stage winner at the Vuelta 7 years ago now. Before João Almeida came on the scene for a while, alongside Rui Costa, he was Portuguese cycling. Next of the breakaway men to be caught. 6 kilometers from the conclusion, and Dens just really having to fight to hold the wheel.
He's starting to look like he's labouring a little bit on that wheel of Fausto Masnada right now, but Masnada's yet to shake him off. But this is also where sport director Brian Holm is going to come into play and start giving Masnada a few words. Look, he's really having to dig in around these corners. It's where he's hurting, so accelerate a little bit harder every corner that you come out of, and you will put him under pressure, and probably at some point then snap the elastic without having to make a big acceleration and attack yourself.
Coming up to the second hardest kilometre of the whole climb, and it is the hardest remaining kilometre of the whole climb. This one now between about 6 and 5 to go, up at well above 9% average gradient for a K. There's a look back from Masnada as another shower's taken by Nico Dens. Now Chris Nederlands trying his best to up the pace. I think Rutsch's day is done, is it? I'm not sure. No, he's still there. Still there.
Yeah.
We saw one pink helmet very briefly, but still doing a great ride here, the young German. One of the performances is the day. Just on the right-hand side with the pink helmet, jersey open, he's got the beard going on as well. That's Jonas Rutsch, who sat in front of Nielsen Paulus, the American. Good ride too from Andreas Kron. You talked about Brian Holm, another great Dane. But it's the big Dane in the yellow jersey that we're looking at. Jakob Fuglsang's the leader. And Israel Premier Tech are looking for a stage race win. Of course, it's what they've been looking for since they really beefed up their recruitment and signed some experienced stars.
Yeah. The question is though, when is the attack from Fuglsang going to come? Because I don't think that he can be all that comfortable with this if we end up having a time trial. I know we're kind of going back to this whole COVID situation, but if the race continues, then I think Fuglsang is going to need to start building on that time gap to Geraint Thomas.
Two chasers are not out of it yet. Champoussin doing a good ride. Of course, he missed that early move as soon as Masnada went. He was sort of caught further down in the group. Not necessarily not on a strong day, but he gave himself more to do from that moment, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Quite a lot.
Just under 4 minutes now. I think he's had more showers than you and I have in a week today, has Nico Dens?
I definitely think so.
Doing his best to keep himself cool.
That bunch is surprisingly big at this stage on the mountain.
When's the move going to come? Either the timing equipment has adapted itself rather quickly, or that gap started to come down even quicker than it was before. Just under 3 minutes now. Don't look like they've accelerated too much in that bunch behind.
No, judging by the size of the group, it doesn't look like they're going that hard, and there's very few people are really in trouble.
We'll keep an eye on that time gap. Has fluctuated a bit over the few days, but there are 5 kilometers remaining at the front. Still nail-ons, and Ugo Uhl is primed to take over. Geraint Thomas still in there on the left-hand side, looking behind. Thibaut Pinot remains there as well. Well, we're being told now that it's only 2.5 minutes.
Stefan Kung is still in that group there as well.
We said it before, climbing better than ever. And that's quite the performance. Still we look back to Remco Evenepoel, who's hidden away on his own this time. Masnada, his teammate, up the road. Now, if Evenepoel goes, is there a reaction here, given how good he's in the time trial?
Yeah, I do think they have to worry a little bit about him. If they let him too much closer, then he's certainly a worrying rider. And the same thing if
Schachmann, he's going to go. Schachmann is going to go. Now Bora start the party. Over 5 kilometres to go back in the bunch. We were waiting and waiting and waiting, and that provokes the reaction, and it comes straight from the very top. Jakob Fuglsang decides to do the chasing. It's game on as Geraint Thomas and Danny Martinez get involved as well.
Yeah, you can see the experience from Big Geraint Thomas there, just you know, moving over, allowing Martinez to come around him and start doing his job. The Fuglsang reacted so quickly. You can see it straight away, bam, on the wheel.
So who's made it and who hasn't? That is the question here. Hutch was doing his best to close things down. I'm looking at Remco Evenepoel, and he's not in the first 10 here. Has he been slipping and sliding? A feeling he has, you know.
Yeah, it certainly looks like it.
So it's Fuglsang up with Schachmann, and Martinez is closing the gap. Evenepoel right at the back of this group. Now Martinez takes over, and it looks as though it's on the Ineos Grenadiers. Back at the front. Oh, ooh. Well, that gap was wrong, by the way. It's ticked back up to over 5 minutes, but there is no longer any gap between the two groups at the front. They're going through 4 kilometres to go. It's Nico Denz, Fausto Masnada, now joined by Clément Champoussin and José Rada. It's a completely different setup at the front of the race. Five minutes, 15 seconds, as Champoussin's done a great job here. Now, how do you react if you're Masnada?
Well, just the way it's done there, just take it calm, have a look around you, take stock of what these guys look like around me here, and then start to sort of figure out a plan as to how to win the race. I think Champoussin could probably, the best thing for him at that point would have been to carry on with the momentum and the rhythm that he had, rather than opening himself up to this.
But he's opening himself up to an attack. There's an increase of the pace there from Masnada, just to see if anybody could follow. Meantime, we're back at 4Ks to go, and Quinn Simmons is only 400 metres off the front of the race. He's been working at it as well, just at the back of these cars.
He's doing a good ride, eh?
Masnada, Denz, Champoussin, Rada. That's Masnada who looks behind. Just over 5 minutes now in front of the yellow jersey group, where we saw that little bit of explosion of action. José Rada, 36, is in a golden chance for a first ever World Tour win. There he is at the back of the group in the red and white. Hasn't won for well over 7 years. Cofidis rider with his brother. Champoussin just on the radio here, maybe asking for advice. Everybody looking at each other right now. It's gone cagey.
It's gone very cagey.
Somewhere further down the mountain, 800 metres further down the mountain, Quentin Pacher on the blue, white and red, and Roland Talman, who's done a great ride today, certainly for a third division rider, out there riding for the Swiss national team. Martinez and Thomas, it's all that's left for the Ineos Grenadiers. They're taking it up. Oh, Remco Evenepoel struggling. Looks as though it wasn't a flash in the pan. There's no attack here, but there's a gentle upping of the pace, and Evenepoel is at the back of the group, and he's let the wheel go, Magnus.
Yeah, it's looking like he's in another difficult day here, not responding. He looked so good on the lower slopes though, but when the pace really got driven up, then yeah, he did struggle.
Well, it's almost like a track stand in the corner here. But this is what's going to happen afterwards. Remco Evenepoel behind, struggling, but it's Fausto Masnada at the front who's going to try and hit them. They've got rid of Dens, we think, although he's battling to try and hang on. No, this is a brilliant ride from Dens, who reacts really well. Herrada is a goner, I think, for the moment. And Masnada can't shake Champoussin. It's fun and games at the front.
Yeah, really interesting. Yeah, you can see Masnada is desperate to shake these guys. He doesn't want to take them to a sprint. But Dens, you know, really responded well to that attack.
If that first half a second, it looked as though the elastic had snapped, but he was right on the power after that.
Yeah, well, he was cheekily sat there, like just you know, doing up his jersey, and I mean, it's a good timing from Masnada to take advantage of that.
Well, there's the gap growing to the Remco Evenepoel group. 4Ks to go for him, and he's off the back here. It's not a good sign for the Belgian, and something has been amiss. Is it the heat? Is it the prep? We don't know. Yesterday he said he didn't have the legs. Again, it looks as though the same misfortune has befallen him today. Off the back with Warbass there. And Jonis Aguirre, who's not had a particularly good week. Back to the front. And Herrada is doing his best to work his way back.
Masnada can't shake these guys.
I guess this is where Brian Holm now is worth his weight in gold, and how he calms him down, how he, you know, tells him not to panic here, because if you're getting close to the line, you can't do it, the pressure's on you. It might start to get certain people.
Yeah, it definitely would. But I personally think that Masnada would be better off at this point to make it a bit more stop-start, to sort of settle down into the saddle, just slow down the pace, kick again, sit down, slow down the pace, and then kick again. And that way, it's far more difficult for everyone, really, including yourself, obviously. But I think just holding that high pace is just not going to work for him.
We talked about Evenepoel being dropped a moment ago. Stefan Kung is still here in the high mountains, heading up to 2,000 meters. He's with the Tour de France winner, Gerrit Thomas. He's with the race leader here, Jakob Fuglsang. He's with the German national champion, the Colombian national champion, both accomplished climbers. What a ride from the Swiss.
Yeah, he's on a phenomenal week here.
They are playing now with this, just as you suggested. Not soft pedalling, stop pedalling there from Fausto Masnada. 2 kilometers to go.
Yeah, if they're not careful here, they're inviting Quinn Simmons back into the mix again.
A reminder that in the last kilometre it gets a little easier as well. So if Masnada wants to use the steeper gradients as well, he's got about 800 metres of this to go.
Yeah, I'm going to say right now that he's not going to get rid of these guys. It's going to come down to some form of a sprint. But like I said, we haven't had an exact time gap on where Quinn Simmons is. But if they look around too much and start doing these games, they invite him in. And I would say arguably he is the faster out of this group if he was to come back in.
Next attack to come, and it's Grossschartner. We saw that Lutsenko had been caught, by the way, a moment ago after his adventure when he drifted off the front. Grossschartner having a go. He's in the green here. Started the day for Bora Hansgrohe at 38 seconds. I should say 34 seconds, pardon me, from the lead of Jakob Fuglsang. We're having to do all the sums because our leader with all the numbers on are behind.
But that group was thinning out rather quickly. And guess what? Stefan Kung is still there.
What a ride. So look behind here. They've almost stopped again. Where is Quinn Simmons? He was 400 metres behind the last time we had a picture of him. And Masnada now goes from the front, just as Champoussin was doing up his jersey. In the drops here, on the power. Knows that he can't shake them again this time. Still 4. And only just over a kilometre remains. Stage win is going to go to the breakaway today. But who's it going to be?
It's not a particularly technical running either. It's pretty much just all on power.
So faster Masnada in the blue, Clément Champoussin in the white. Masnada goes again. It's up to Dens to close this down. As Herrada is very much the passenger up until this point in the red. But you never know. They're approaching the Flamme Rouge and there's 1 kilometre to go. Masnada's tried and tried. Almost half an hour longer than what the organisers predicted today. Almost 5 hours and 10 minutes. 2 huge giant mountain passes. Over the Newfoundland Pass, how they came out of Italian-speaking Switzerland and back into the German-speaking part. Through Natas, Visp, into the canton of Valais. And they're up on the way to Morsalp right now. A day that's been highly affected with a long shadow of COVID-19 cast over it. 29 riders failed to turn up for the start today, including the race leader. The drama of the sort we didn't want overnight. We now have an opportunity to witness a 4-up sprint to the line for a stage win at the top of a mountain. We're at 2,000 meters above sea level in the heart of the Swiss Alps. Another glorious day of hot weather. 500 meters to go. Masnada keeps looking around. Dens, who's hung on all day. Such an accomplished rider, but has yet to got his World Tour win. And here is Quinn Simmons. We were wondering where he was. He's up ready to shock and surprise them. Surely he's the fastest in the group here. This would be a story. 300 meters to go now. It's 5 up instead of 4, and they've got an extra passenger. It's Masnada who's going to be forced to lead it out. Simmons now is going to go on the left-hand side. Surely he's not going to pick their pocket. Simmons is there. Simmons hits the front. He's taken the King of the Mountains jersey today. He's now in front of Dens. 150 metres to hang on. Champoussin's there. Masnada's up the game. There's Simmons, but here comes Champoussin. Here comes Champoussin through the centre. And Clément Champoussin with Nico Dens coming around him. Nico Dens is there. Oh, they're both to the line. A photo finish at the top of the mountain. How did that happen? Nico Dens might well have just nicked that, you know. Simmons came in right at the last. Dens isn't sure. I think he looks disappointed rather than anything there. He was coming up. Champoussin was just about in front. Dens on the inside. We'll have to see the replay to confirm it for you. So much drama there. In the meantime, we've got the peloton coming into the Flamme Rouge now. Nothing's really happened between this lot. It's thinned out a little bit, but it is going to be minute details. All the bonus seconds have gone. Remember, there was 1 single second at the start of the day between Jakob Fuglsang and Geraint Thomas as they looked maybe for a split. Great ride this from Roland Talman to hold off the peloton. Quentin Pacher is going to be the next finisher. But behind they're going to get ready to wind it up. We think that Nico Dens has taken the win, but we wait to confirm it. If that's the case, it's his first ever victory on the World Tour, and for a rouleur, it's come at the top of a mighty mountain. This is Roland Talman. Great ride from the young man. 3rd division rider, mixing it with the best on the World Tour. Now let's get back to the peloton. Is there going to be any change in the general classification? There's Nico Dens being interviewed. And here's Geraint Thomas, trying to force a split, trying to get away, trying to take the yellow jersey. He's putting a little bit of daylight between him and Jakob Fuglsang, but here comes Higuita to close the gap. Higuita coming across now, Geraint Thomas to the line. I don't think there's a gap there, and it looks as though Jakob Fuglsang will remain the leader of the Tour de Suisse by 1 single second with 2 stages to go. Stefan Küng, what a ride. Been a strange day on the Tour de Suisse, conditioned by those 29 dropouts this morning. Just over 90 riders remained. A lack of firepower, not as many favourites, but nowhere near as many resources. Even so, Stefan Küng mixing it with the very best on a huge mountain stage. And Remco Evenepoel, yet again dropped, yet again struggling. Schachmann, by the way, down here with him. He's going to drop in the GC a little bit. And Andreas Kron as well, likely to drop further down, if not out of the top 10. All the focus, though, seems to be on Team DSM. And finally he knows. What a long wait that was. We thought he was the winner, but he's only just been told. Nico Denz, at age 28, has done it in the most unlikely of scenarios. A big rouleur, a strong rider, a man who should be up there in the classics. 2 wins in his career, nothing at this level. He has just won 2,000 meters on an all-category climb in the Tour de Suisse.
I mean, you got to take your hat off to him. That was a very, very special ride that he produced there. And that sprint at the end, Quinn Simmons coming up so late, and then I thought for a while that he almost had it.
They almost didn't know he was there.
No.
Ready to pick their pockets. And the lead changed hands so many times in that little sprint to the line. It's not as if somebody laid it out, then somebody came around. You had Champoussin there as well. Herrada didn't really move, did he? But Masnada faded quickly. And then suddenly, Nico Denz leaving it very, very late, just when it looked as though Champoussin was there to steal the glory. The line didn't arrive. Oh, it arrived just in time for Nico Denz, who on the photo finish at the top of a mountain has won stage 6 of the Tour de Suisse.